Thanks very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I have a speech to deliver today, just basically recapping on where we've come since the Commission's initiative on digitalisation of industry was released in 2016. I'd like to speak about the kind of networks that we've built since then, and also the impact of some ongoing files that will affect the digitalisation of industry. If you don't know, Business Europe, of course, is the advocate for national business associations. We're like the umbrella group that represents businesses towards the European institutions here. So, where are we at the moment in the digitalisation process? Well, we have great capacities at our feet, clearly. Our education systems, networks and research facilities, and also a large, wealthy market to exploit. But at the same time, member states are advancing towards digital transformation at different speeds and in different methods, and we are not seeing the benefits evenly spread. Simply put, digital transformation in Europe is not happening at the required pace or scale across all regions, and this is a great concern. We need to all play our part in ensuring that Europe embraces this fourth industrial revolution. No country, sector, or government can achieve this alone, and the revolution itself will wait for nobody. And that is why Business Europe has been supporting the Commission's efforts to digitise European industry and coordinate member states' national initiatives. The Platforms initiative launched in March on Digital Day last year is a prime example of this action. Now, while national initiatives coordinate policy, we also need to be looking at investment as well. And that is where the work of the digital innovation hubs come in, as was raised by Ariane at the very beginning. We want to see the creation of a European network of these digital innovation hubs across all regions to support coordination of private and public investment at the right time and in the right technologies to enable the transformation we need. Within these networks, businesses also have a role to play in order to speed up the digitalization process. So larger businesses can partner with small ones to roll out innovative ideas globally, and businesses that have already digitally transformed can explain and demonstrate the businesses of transformation to traditional sectors. But at the same time, investors need to be more willing to take calculated risks on innovative ideas. Otherwise, these businesses will simply move to regions outside of Europe where they can get the capital that they require. At the same time, financing in world-class digital infrastructure is vital to deliver the technologies en masse that we need to see across all regions of Europe, not just urban ones. Here, competition will be key, and this will enable incentives to continually invest in ultra-high broadband infrastructure in a more predictable manner. Now, it's all well and good having high-quality infrastructure and ultra-connected networks in place to deliver these technologies, but without sufficient protection of those technologies, we could be putting our industrial sectors and citizens at risk. Member states need to understand growing cybersecurity challenges that Europe faces in order to mitigate them, and businesses have a lot of knowledge to give here. No longer a single member state's institutions or consumers being targeted alone. As we can see, by 2020, around 20 billion devices will be connected in Europe, and so it's easy to see how attacks like WannaCry last year in the UK can spread so rapidly. This impacted around 230,000 systems in a short period of time in over 150 countries. So we need a European coordinated response to cybersecurity too, and ensure that all regions have sufficient capacities to respond. The more experienced in this field can benefit others and bring them up to speed. And the Commission's proposal for a Cybersecurity Act should aid by granting ENISA a permanent mandate to coordinate member state reactions. In relation to the private sector, the Act will also ensure that all players within value chains take cybersecurity seriously through the creation of a specific cybersecurity certification framework for connected products and services. But industry needs to be in the driving seat here. We need to be the ones to determine what schemes Europe needs and how they will look. We have the engineering knowledge in this area, and we also know the threat landscape. So that means we need early consultation with not only the providers, but also the users of these technologies. So that's all well and good for consumer-connected products, but we also believe that more of an importance can be placed on the protection of businesses' intellectual property. State-funded industrial espionage and trade secret theft is on the rise in Europe, and it's disrupting our industrial sectors. So we would like to encourage Council to recommit itself to the conclusions it passed last year, which included highly ambitious initiatives to protect industrial intellectual property through its cybersecurity action plan. For some reason, this part has actually dropped off of the plan, and we're working closely with Council to come up with some ideas as to how they can protect our industrial sectors from this type of state-funded espionage. Now, the title of today's event includes the notion of big data, and it's clear that national localization is the natural enemy to big data, as its power and worth is based in its free flow between different entities, regardless of borders across Europe. And Business Europe aims for an end to unjustified data localization measures in order to facilitate the free flow of non-personal data. We also support the notion of improving business-to-business data porting through elevating competitiveness in this area through the use of soft law measures. Now, the Commission's proposal here to enable this has already been positively received by industry and also the Member States. Council delivered us somewhat of a Christmas present in December by finding a common position on this file and agreeing that national restrictions can only be justified on the basis of public order. We now look towards Parliament to ensure that this ambitious proposal can be made watertight by firstly defining what public order means and also improving the notification procedure that's set out in the legislation so that the Commission can have the teeth it requires to ensure that Member States do not slide into the protectionist practices of the past. Finally, in terms of the impact of data policies on the overall initiative of digitalizing industry, I would like to add that the e-privacy proposal that's currently being discussed in Council was originally meant to only cover personal data. However, this conference could be interested to know that machine-to-machine data has been included within its scope. This confusingly means that industrial sectors would have to ensure that there is consent between two machines in order to legally process data. Yes, we are as confused as you are, and we hope that Council can take the time to vastly improve this proposal that is beginning to cast a negative shadow on the future of Industry 4.0. Now, I would like to finish on a final detailed topic, and Matthias mentioned this earlier, and that is the proliferation of artificial intelligence and robotics. Now, we hear that AI and robotics is already here, and we hear that now we're only having these discussions because it's a buzzword. But really, Europe needs to create a favourable environment in this area, and that is why we are discussing it now and why it's going to become so important for the end of this legislature, but also the next. So while some areas in Europe are advancing, particularly in Germany, it's clear that Asian countries such as China, South Korea and Japan hold the cards in this policy area, or technological area, I should say. As I'm sure you're aware, in Europe there has been a lot of negative grandstanding around the impact of AI and robotics on jobs, but we need to break this taboo. Yes, these technologies will automate many tasks and transform the needs of labour markets in Europe, but please hear this, it will not cause a reduction in employment overall. So notions of a robot tax or a one-size-fits-all AI legislation will only hinder the benefits offered through these technologies. This is not an attempt by industry to shy away from the challenges that AI and robotics possess. In fact, industry believes that we need a responsible artificial and robotics rollout that is human-centric. That means assisting our workforces to become more efficient rather than overtaking everything they do. Now, our labour force also needs to obtain new skills for the new types of work that they will run into. So it's essential that government and industry collaborate together to meet these demands by investing in reskilling and lifelong learning. That means our existing digital skills gap to ensure our workforce is ready for the jobs of tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude by saying that we've come a long way throughout this legislature to pinpoint areas of improvement for Europe. We've also set up networks in order to coordinate and organise our collective responses. This will grasp the opportunities digital transformation offers through real-time policy making and stakeholder discussion. This is true better regulation in action. But we should realise that not every single technological advance needs to be followed by legislation. In fact, it should be fostered first and its impact assessed. We believe that only real market failures should be followed by legislation. And where legislation and harmonisation is needed, the rules required should remain robust and technology neutral. Now, digital is a truly cross-cutting topic, and so we believe that policymakers at all governance levels should take a digital by default stance. In other words, no matter the policy area, transport, tax, trade, we need to be asking ourselves, what is its digital relevance? Now, we hear recently that Europe is back, and indeed it could well be, and we are heading in the right direction and asking how can we become more digitally relevant in the world. But with various national and regional initiatives ongoing, it's key that we act united in this transformation. Italian, French and German businesses are already demonstrating the benefits of alliance building by joining forces to discuss with one another. Platform Industry for Germany, Alliance Industrie del Future for France, and Piano Industria in Italy are all pooling their resources to set common policy priorities for larger regions of Europe. This is a good example of a practice that will spread coordinated digitalization of industry throughout our continent. And as the old African proverb goes, if we want to go there fast, go alone, but if we want to go far, we go together. Thank you.